So let's jump into this short clip. It's only 5 minutes, but I want to go through this today. And I want to look at what Ben Chu's interview with Shinlei. And I'm going to be honest with you. Shinlei seems like a very nice girl, but she doesn't always have the hardest hitting of questions, right? She's a very beautiful girl, very nice apparently, but her questions are not always very hard hitting. So don't expect too much. We're going to walk through this Court TV interview. Once again, this is a fair use analysis. I'm going to add my commentary to this. We're going to pause it. We're going to talk about it. So, let's strap in here and let's look at this. Let's take a look at this. Okay, actually, hold on 1 second. Got to make sure that the audio is good on this because I will not be called by a boomer one more time today, you guys. That's not acceptable in my book at all. All right, there you go. Should have full audio. Let me know if it's a little low. It's cranked all the way up.
Talk about Heard's lead attorney, Elaine Breth. She made some post-verdict interviews as well last week. In fact, I was supposed to sit down with her. She had to cancel last minute, something urgent in court.
I don't think Shinlei is believing her bullshit, by the way, here. Look at her eyes when she talks about her canceling. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. Look at Shinlei when she talks about her canceling. So I don't think she buys that bullshit. Chanley, whatever. People say it's Chanley. I don't care. It's Shinlei, Miss Blue Dress, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Lead attorney Elaine Breth, she made some post-verdict interviews as well last week. In fact, I was supposed to sit down with her. She had to cancel last minute, something urgent in court. We haven't yet rescheduled.
Yeah, she doesn't believe that shit. She doesn't believe that shit at all. But Elaine ducked out. Elaine ducked out of an interview, stood her up. I said it's probably the first time that she's been stood up in her life. She's the, by the way, those who don't know, maybe I've been following, she's the Court TV reporter. She was the one in the courtroom during the trial. And she was the one who was looking usually particularly foxy. I'll try to find a photo of her from the trial. I think she pinned it to her page because people were just asking who the woman is in the particular dress. I think she was in the green dress. Here it is. Let me show you guys. This is her right here, right? And this is the one that got pinned because it went viral, which is the woman in green the woman in green at the trial looks like someone with a spicy secret, like she has a fake name at Starbucks or killed her husband in her sleep. See, that's her right there, right? So she was in there most of the trial. Now people comment that she wasn't in there the entire time. She's Miss Arkansas, by the way. People are pointing out she's Miss Arkansas. So clearly she's a very attractive woman. Like, that's undebatable, right? So she was in there. Some people were giving her shit because she wasn't in there the entire time, but that's because she had to give like reports and do other research and do other stuff. So she did have to duck out of the courtroom, but people were giving her shit for that. And we're saying, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And some of her questions in her interviews that she asked previously were kind of weak. She also made some incorrect predictions. She made an incorrect prediction about Amber Heard's team calling Johnny Depp as a hostile witness. That was really interesting. It seems like if she got that information from Amber Heard's team, I think they played her. They used her to scare Johnny's team, I think, on that little bit. So I think she got played there. She also got some other stuff wrong regarding some motions and regarding some of the jury instructions. So she's not perfect, but she managed to land this interview.
But that offer is obviously still out there for her. But I want to give you the opportunity to address some of the things that she did say last week to the media. She claims that your team demonized Amber Heard and suppressed evidence. What's your response?
So asking him to respond to the fucking lies of Elaine Breth here. So, because frankly, their legal team went out and lied. And yesterday, they established in their Good Morning America, Good Morning America piece that Elaine and Amber's team are claiming that Johnny's team is being unprofessional. So Amber's now saying, oh, Johnny's legal team shouldn't be out there talking. Well, Amber was the one who sent her team out first. Her team was on The View, right? Her team went out there immediately.
I think it's disappointing that she would say something like that. With respect to suppression of evidence, there was a lot more evidence that came in Fairfax County than ever came in London. And I took that as not being complimentary of our judge, who was a wonderful judge. I just think that's an improper characterization. As far as demonization, the cross-examination of Ms. Heard that was done, I believe, beautifully by Camille Vasquez was not intended to demonize her. It really was predicated on her own words. So the cross-examination was based on statements that Ms. Heard had made, and presenting her with some audios that she herself had made and really asking for her explanation. I don't think that's demonization. I think that's cross-examination.
Right. She points.
Okay, so two things there. That's a little unfortunate pause, but whatever. I'll leave it there. It's not too bad. So two things. So the first part of that is the evidence. So this is a big thing we talked about, and I know I had people on here. I had Jordy on. We were talking about UK versus US trial. We did that a lot. By the way, speaking of a lot, I just noticed, guys, there are 2,500 of you in the chat right now. That's a lot of you. And if you can smash that like button, if you could do that for Papa Andrew, I would really appreciate it. It would help us out in the algorithm, guys. So if you could smash it real quick. Smash it for Shinlei. Smash it for Shinlei. So she does look feisty in this pause. So the first part was the evidence. What Ben Chu is saying, and what is factually correct, is that more evidence came in during the US trial than the UK trial. In sheer volume, there's far more evidence that came in the US than the UK. Now, there may have been certain evidence that was allowed in the UK that was not allowed in the US because we have different rules. That's understandable. And maybe they can complain because some of the evidence that they wanted in didn't get in. But to say the judge is suppressing evidence is disingenuous. Suppressing, it has a connotation of maliciousness, of hiding something. That's not what the judge is doing. Now the judge is doing perhaps at all. At all. People say that, I'll smash it as long as you never refer to yourself as Papa Andrew again. Okay. Okay, you got yourself a deal, Gwen. You got yourself a deal. I'll allow that. I'll allow it. Let's continue with this one.
Points to medical.
Oh, sorry. I forgot one thing. Also, she talked about demonization. So this is a funny thing where Amber Heard's team and Amber Heard and her creepy, nasty PR manager, David Shane, who I see people in the chat. I think Avani said something in the chat, which I think is true, that somebody was being uncomfortable with David Shane. I would believe this because David Shane is a grab ass, and he is alleged to have committed several sex crimes. So that's on him now. And this is Amber Heard's PR manager. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Shanley that was, or Shanley that was uncomfortable with the behavior of David Shane, because I mean he is a bit of a creep. But the demonization, to say that what they're doing is scaring women, is hurting women, it's a mischaracterization. It's a huge mischaracterization. And by the way, shout out to everybody who's just tuning in. I know some people are just joining right now. Artfully Spun just joined from Sydney. Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in at this time. This will be my normal time. So when I'm back in Korea and everything, this is my normal time. I'll be normally at an earlier time in the East Coast of the United States. So it's going to be like 5 or 6 for the East Coast of the United States. But that's fine for us in Asia, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, UK, everybody over there. Let's continue.
Records, text messages from Stephen Deuters, things like that. Would that have made a difference? Can you enlighten us on?
I don't believe any of the evidence that was excluded, and there was evidence excluded on both sides, and you're very familiar. There are rules of evidence that apply. Not everything comes in.
Right.
That was a good move, by the way. This one by Ben. because what he did right there was he used, I'll play it one more time.
Are rules of evidence that apply. Not everything comes in.
See, so Ben said there's rules of evidence. You know that there's evidence that apply. And Shanley is like, exactly. You can hear in the background where she's like, exactly. So it's kind of getting the questioner on your side. So it's showing that she actually agrees with Ben here. And he was very clever to do that. See, Elaine and Rottenborn, they don't know how to be amiable. They don't know how to be agreeable. They don't have that option. They're like, if this was an RPG, you know, Elaine's only characteristic is fight, right? That's her only option in the RPG, right? She's got like berserk cast on her. She can just attack. She doesn't know anything else. These guys have so many other tools in their Rolodex. And being nice and assuming the other person is not an evil, horrible person who's asking you questions is so effective.
Right. And suppression may not be the best word, too, that she uses, right? It's inadmissible because of hearsay or it's not relevant. Or...
Exactly. And I think Her Honor, you know, played it right down the middle, was very consistent in her rulings. And I think it's an improper characterization, and perhaps she just misspoke.
See, look at that. Look at what just happened there. So Shanley agreed with him. Shanley made the argument. So she literally said, oh, yeah, it's not admissible because of hearsay or relevance. She made that argument. He didn't even have to make that argument. So that was really good there. Also, Ben Chu gave Elaine the grace and the kindness that they wouldn't do. So he said right there, perhaps it was just a misstatement. He literally gave Elaine an out. Said maybe she just misspoke. Of course, they're never going to take that, right? They're never going to take that and say, oh, no, that's actually what it was. I misspoke. I'm not being unethical. But it was very nice of him. He didn't have to do that, but he did it. Saltron said this hate is overkill at this point. Well, the point is that Amber Heard is going to struggle like this. And look, I kind of wanted to move on from this topic, but guess what? They're still fighting it and still struggling it, and they're still trying to maintain relevance. So it is what it is. Yeah, if you say I like her better than George Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos is a kind of a fucking prick. So I'm not a fan of the Snuffleupagus. So yeah, just to be clear on that one.
Sure. Okay, another thing, Elaine said that this verdict is a huge setback for women. Thinking about reporting domestic violence would send a message that they cannot win. What's your team's response?
I think that's entirely untrue. And
it's good that good pause there. So it's good that he's addressing this, but honestly, the Camille Vasquez response to Good Morning America was like the finishing blow. But this is a good response too.
And Mr. Depp would want people to come forward if they were victims of domestic abuse. So I don't think this is a setback at all for women or men who have been victimized by domestic abuse. And I think this is a victory for truth. I think I don't think it's a setback at all.
Elaine also pointed to
good pause here because, okay, that is the response you want. Because that's the number one, it's an honest response. And number two, it's straightforward. I mean, it's just like, it's very much what we want to hear. That the law, the justice system is about truth. It's not about BS. It's not about anything else. It's about truth, right? And that's what it should be about. That's what this process should be about. It should be about finding the truth, seeking the truth. It's not about men or women. He said it's about victims, whether you're a man or a woman coming forward. That's what's important. And you know what? I stand by that. Stand by that. And I wouldn't be surprised. People saying right here to this that Amber is going to double down. I can see that happening. I can see that happening. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. Let's see here. Andy, the game maker, said, this live stream's not going to like itself. Andy, oh my God. You're killing me today, man. You're killing me today. You're killing me today. So, of course, Andy, I don't want to let this go, but if you haven't seen, there's a sign. There's a sign that's trending that's been around in a couple places. And this is the sign. This is the sign. And this is what Andy's super chat is referring to. I'm letting you guys in on the joke, right? This is a good one. It makes me laugh. This is my type of humor. So thank you, Andy, for that super chat. We all appreciate it. We all appreciate it. So make sure you smash that like button. Give it some love, and that'll help us out in the algo. Let's continue here.
To the jury as possibly even being tainted by the massive amount of media. This was all over social media, as you probably know, and even blaming the cameras in the courtroom for possibly tainting this verdict. What do you think?
That was almost more disappointing than her statement about evidence being kept out, because I construed that as an affront to the jury. I mean, the jury took an oath, as you know, not to look at social media, and there's no basis that the jury violated their oath. And these are people, and you saw them every day, who gave up 6 weeks of their lives, of their work, of their family, to pay attention not only to the evidence that Mr. Depp put forward, but also to the evidence Ms. Heard put forward. And to cast a shadow on them, I think, was really unfortunate and disappointing.
Yeah, there was a...
So here's the thing. After this case went down, because of what we saw in this case and the back blow of this case, we're going to see a big push against cameras in the courtroom. Now, look, obviously, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. A lot of these are law tubers. They're afraid. They're kind of, I get it. And I've talked about this before. I'll say it one more time. Some people are a little bit more afraid because they're practicing attorneys in particular areas and jurisdictions, and they don't want to say things, right? Because they can get in trouble with the bar. I came out and I've said fuck the American Bar Association and fuck their bullshit, and fuck any court that's standing in the way of truth, or any organization standing in the way of truth. So what they're afraid of, and what a lot of people are afraid of, is they're afraid of wider sweeping rules coming out that ban TV cameras from the courtrooms. They're afraid of states banning TVs from the courtroom. They're afraid of judges banning TVs from the courtroom. And look, I get it. It would be bad for the law tube, right? Because obviously we are doing trials or watching them live. That would be kind of bad. That would be a little bit annoying. But I think that the important thing is that the truth gets out there. And regardless of whether or not we get a live feed or whether we get a playback, as long as we have the ability to look at what is actually happening in the court, I think that's super valuable. I think it's so valuable to be able to review these people and see how they're reacting live. Now, obviously, we can't see the jury. You can't dox the jury. That's never going to be a thing in any American courtroom. But being able to see the witnesses, I think that, to me, I can tell whether a witness is believable or unbelievable by watching them. Yes, you can look at their body language, but even if you don't look, you're not a body language expert, right? You don't need to be a body language expert to listen to their tone, to see how they look. And everybody on some level can look at somebody and assess whether they're lying or whether they're telling the truth. And you can also focus on what they're saying. In this particular case, as Ben Chu has pointed out, the biggest enemy of Amber was Amber. Amber decided, she made the choice to tell these tall tales. She made a choice to lie. And by lying, she exposed herself to a harsh cross-examination. That's what cross-examination is for. And I'm laughing here. This is a good comment, which is, imagine no cameras for Dr. Spiegel. Exactly. Because here's the thing, what would happen. Remember Dr. Spiegel, Mr. Guy who's licking his lips? Dr. Spiegel, they would make him sound, the mainstream media would make Dr. Spiegel sound like the most professional expert ever. They would make him sound like he was the other, I actually forget the British professor's name. You guys can remind me. The Cambridge professor, I forget his name. But they would make them sound like they're equivalent. And we all know, just looking at them, they are not equivalent. Listening to their testimony, they are not equivalent. But the mainstream media would lie to you and tell you that, oh yeah, the experts, one expert was okay, the other expert was okay. Really, it was a nothing burger. That's what they would say. Versus the fact that we saw Dr. Spiegel. We saw how ridiculous he was. We saw that he was a preposterous person in addition to a ridiculous expert. And nobody believed him. And that's why we need to see it, right? Once again, the camera showed the truth. The camera showed the truth. Omega Ben says, it's going to have to take me to dinner first before I smash. Well, the like button will buy you a margarita at Chili's. I will say that. Jeremy Wormy says, I like Ben, but God, he looks like a Muppet. Hey, I like the Muppets growing up. And it's totally fine. And anybody who, I hope you're not actually whining about objectifying Shanley, not Chanel's, but yeah, absolutely. This is my channel. I do what the fuck I want. Ain't nobody telling me what to do on this channel, which is what it is, guys. All right, let's keep going with this.
The statement even recently that Heard's team released, I'm sure you've also read this, but I want to get your take. The spokesperson for Amber says it is as unseemly as it is unprofessional that Johnny Depp's legal team has chosen to do a victory lap for setting back decades of how women can be treated in the courtroom. What's next? A movie deal and merchandising. That was the latest statement.
Okay. Honestly, though, guys, like she's smiling here, but I kind of want to see a movie. And honestly, if there was a movie, there'd be somebody sexy sitting in the audience playing Shanley, right? There'd be somebody sitting in the audience if this was a movie, and they'd be kind of hot. Also, imagine who they would cast as like the LawTube team. So you've got like somebody in there as Runkle, somebody in there as DUI guy, James. They'd have to cast a James. It would be very interesting. For the audience too, but then they'd have to cast Elaine, Rottenborn, Camille. You guys can tell me, like, do you have any casting picks for the people who would play them in the movie? Because I would actually watch the movie. Like obviously, like Rick Moranis would play the judge. I know it's fucked up, but like, okay, it kind of fits, right? I'm trying to think who they could pick. Like, do we have a spicy Latina to play Camille? Who could play Ben Chu? And I guess it's like, is Johnny? I mean, I guess like Johnny could be Johnny, but you kind of got to hire somebody, right? Sweetheart says, for a margarita at Chili's. Thank you. I do love a good marg. I had a good one the other day. I'm still in Texas, guys. So enjoying Mexican food before I go back in Tex-Mex before I go back to Korea. Captain Dunsel says, will mainstream media wise up? The people don't need or want the lying BS commentary. I don't know. I think this trial is getting them aware. I'll put it that way. I will put it that way. Little Rascal says, hey, I think this trial will make people think twice about putting a very suspect expert witnesses on the stand. Yes, that has got to be a good thing. Thank you for your content. YouTube lawyers are important. Thank you. I don't think that, and I'm going to say this, guys, and I know this is going to be controversial, and some of the other law tubers, they're going to probably get mad, right? I don't care. I don't give a fuck, right? They can get salty at me. I don't think lawyers are that important. I'm going to say that one more time. I don't think lawyers are that important. What I think is important is the truth. And I'm okay with lawyers to the extent that they are supporting and enhancing the truth. I don't give a shit about lawyers that are going against the truth. We've seen lawyers that are anti-truth. Elaine is anti-truth. She never had to get out here. Elaine, it's not part of her legal duties to be a PR representative. But when you go out here and you are standing against the truth, when you are saying the jury was tainted, when you're saying social media impacted the jury, that's not your duty as a lawyer. You're against the truth. So those lawyers we don't need. But we do need lawyers that are telling the truth. And there are some great ones here on YouTube, and there's some great lawyers here. Some of them are good friends of mine. But when they are lying, lawyers are pieces of shit. They're vile, they're reprehensible, and they're unnecessary. And the problem is there are too many slime ball lawyers. I will take a non-lawyer telling the truth over a lawyer. In fact, look at Tug. Tug is better than perhaps most of us lawyers here. That umbrella guy, he's done more work on the ground and is still doing more reporting on this than most of the lawyers. So I would say, look, we need people who are committed to telling the truth. How about that? Let's continue.
What's your response to that?
The response to that was one day after the verdict, I believe it was one day after the verdict, Ms. Bredehoft appeared on national programs to set forth Ms. Heard's position. So this is a response to that.